I'm Keith Guberschmidt, the CEO of the Copyright Alliance, and I'm here to tell you about a very, very important bill. The bill is H.R. 3945. I have a copy right here. The bill is called the Copyright Alternative in Small Claims Enforcement Act of 2017, also referred to as the CASE Act for short. It was introduced back in early October. The important things to know about this bill are it's a bipartisan piece of legislation that was introduced by Hakeem Jeffries, a Democrat from New York, as well as Tom Marino, a Republican from Pennsylvania, and has as co-sponsors Lamar Smith of Texas, Doug Collins of Georgia, Judy Chu of California, and Ted Lieu, also of California. Some more basic facts about the bill that you should know is what the bill would do is create a streamlined tribunal within the U.S. Copyright Office to handle small copyright claims. The bill has its origins in the U.S. Copyright Office, which made these legislative recommendations to create this small claims court within the Copyright Office. The Copyright Office's legislative recommendations are based on a 2013 report that followed 4 days of public hearings and 3 rounds of public comments from stakeholders from throughout the country. So you might imagine a bill like this has generated tremendous support. There are thousands of individual creators, thousands of small businesses across the country that support this bill and the creation of a small claims court. It's mostly visual artists and songwriters and authors that are supportive, but it's also a new generation of creators. We're talking about bloggers and YouTubers and other professional creators trying to make a living, trying to make a career, and they're having difficulty because their rights, they just can't enforce their rights in federal court. There are also many different organizations, including the Copyright Alliance, that support the bill, many other organizations that represent photographers, visual artists, authors, songwriters, and many, many other groups that are supportive of this bill. So let me talk about what problem this bill is trying to solve, and then how the bill solves this problem. So I referenced earlier the problem, right? And so you have to know a few things first. First, you have to know that the federal courts have exclusive jurisdiction over copyright. So if an individual author or creator or songwriter wanted to go into a state small claims court, they couldn't. They have to go to federal court. The problem is federal litigation is extremely expensive. Professional creators and small businesses simply can't afford to litigate, to enforce their rights in federal court. There are prohibitive costs like retaining counsel, retaining an attorney, that costs a lot of money. Maintaining federal court litigation, that's a lot of money. In fact, there's some studies that say the cost of litigation could be as much as, or averages, about $350,000. That's a tremendous amount of money, and frankly, most individual professional creators and small businesses simply can't afford that, and therefore they cannot afford to enforce their rights. Also important to remember that a lot of these individuals, these creators, they create photographs and songs and other things that have an individual value that is frankly too small to justify going to court, the significant expense of going to court. Okay? In fact, the cost of discovery, standing alone, can easily dwarf any potential recovery that the creator might get from suing. In addition to that, there's been an ABA survey most recently that said most attorneys won't even take a case if what's at stake in the case is less than $30,000. And that's true for a lot of these cases from authors and visual artists and songwriters and what have you. And so they a lot of times can't even get an attorney to take their case. So this is all a significant problem. Those groups I mentioned, visual artists, authors, and songwriters, of all the creators, seem to be hurt the most because the individual value of their work or the individual value of the transaction is often too low to warrant the expense of litigation. In fact, the typical infringement is usually valued at around $5,000. Now you go, well, wait a minute, why should we create a special court just for a $5,000 infringement? That may not seem like a lot. It may not seem like a huge loss. But for these creators who are trying to make a career, who are trying to make a living, that could be a car payment. It could be a rent payment. It could be the cost of traveling to a different site to take the next photo, okay, or to write, to get information to create the next book. Okay, so It may not seem like a lot of money, but to these individual creators it is, and frankly we have to support them because right now they have in essence rights but no remedies. Okay? Their infringements of their works regularly go unchallenged, and frankly a lot of these creators feel disenfranchised by the whole copyright system. And in fact, a lot of them have stopped registering their copyrighted works because they feel disenfranchised. Why spend the money on registration if you can't enforce your copyright or your copyrighted work to begin with? And so that's a problem, and that's a problem we need to fix. And I will talk about how we're going to fix that. So I talked about the problem that small creators, professional creators, and small businesses deal with on a daily basis about their inability to enforce their copyrights in court, in federal court. So let me talk about what H.R. 3945, the CASE Act, does, because it's very, very important, and it will hopefully solve that problem, and it will give these creators who right now have rights but no remedies, it will give them remedies, and they won't feel so disenfranchised by the copyright system. So what H.R. 3945 does is create a small claims court in the U.S. Copyright Office that's called a Copyright Claims Board, or CCB for short. The CCB would be comprised of 3 judges, and the bill calls those judges officers. We can call them officers, judges, what have you. And those officers have to have experience in copyright law. At least 2 out of the 3 have to have experience in copyright law and representing both copyright owners and copyright users. And also, they have to have at least one of the judges have to have experience in alternative dispute resolution. Another key component to the bill, and frankly, this is probably the most important takeaway, the most important part of the bill, is that it is 100% voluntary, 100% optional. If you're a copyright owner and you want to go to federal court or you don't want to sue at all, you don't have to. You do not have to bring a case before the small claims tribunal, the CCB. It's totally optional. If you are a defendant, in other words, you're an alleged infringer or a user, and you get one of these notices from a copyright owner that says they want to go to small claims court, they want to bring these small claims court, you can simply opt out. Remember, it's voluntary. If people are worried about frivolous claims or so-called copyright trolls, no such thing, but let's assume there is copyright trolls, there's no problem. When you get the notification saying, hey, I want to go to, from a copyright owner saying, I want to go to small claims court, you simply say, no thank you, and you opt out. So that's a very, very important part of this bill. Very, very important also is the fact that the bill creates a much less formal, more streamlined process than federal court. You don't need an attorney. If you're an individual copyright owner or defendant in the case, you can just go and defend yourself or go and bring your claims. You do not need to hire an attorney. Attorneys cost a lot of money, so you can go forward without bringing an attorney. It saves on travel costs. You don't have to make in-person appearances. They're not required. Usually the proceedings will be conducted electronically, so you can save money in that respect. It's a lot easier. And also very significantly, discovery is limited. Discovery, the process where you share information with the other side to give them information and they give you information to figure out whether there's an infringement or not, and if so, what the damages might be. That is extremely limited here. And so there is an incentive for both the copyright owners and the alleged infringers and everyone to use this, this process. Now, in terms of what type of claims could come before this small claims court, this CCB, it's very limited. Not all copyright claims can come before the CCB. A copyright owner can bring claims of infringement. So if there's been an illegal reproduction or distribution or performance or maybe a creation of a derivative work that infringes a copyright owner's rights or a creator's rights, then that individual or that small business can go ahead and bring a claim at the small claims court. But this court, the small claims court, isn't just about copyright owners. It also allows users or alleged infringers or others to bring a claim. So for instance, users can bring what's called a declaration of non-infringement. In other words, let's say they get a threatening letter from the copyright owner and they say, wait a minute, what I'm doing is fair use or otherwise legal. they can bring this a claim for a declaration of non-infringement at the small claims court. That is something that doesn't exist today. If a user wanted to go to federal court, they frankly wouldn't, because it would cost them too much money, and they just don't have any damages to warrant them doing it. There are a couple other claims that can be brought. I won't go into the level of detail there, but it's also important to know that if you are a defendant in the case, you can bring any counterclaims that you could also bring in federal court. You could also bring any defenses that you could bring in federal court. And the big one, of course, is fair use. You could bring a fair use defense. And so there's a real incentive, if you're a copyright owner, a creator, a user of some sort, to be able to, have your case litigated at the small claims court level instead of in the federal court. It's very balanced. Like I said, this bill is very balanced between copyright owner and copyright users. The other two things you need to know is, number one, is that damages are capped. In federal court, you can get statutory damages up to $150,000 per copyrighted work. That is significantly less in small claims, where you can get statutory damages up to $15,000 per work, or $30,000 total. That is a lot less, I think 80 or 90% less, I haven't done the math, than what you get in federal court. So that's also a real reason that individuals who are being accused of copyright infringement might want to be able to take advantage of the small claims court if it gets passed in Congress. And the last thing I'll mention about key components of 3945 is that there are no injunctions, right? You can't bring a case to get somebody to stop what they're doing. You can simply get damages for what they're doing if you're the copyright owner or their creator. So I've been talking about H.R. 3945, the CASE Act, a bill that would create the small claims court. And you've heard about the problem and the key components of the bill, so now you're probably asking yourself, what do I do? Well, I'll tell you what you can do. And please do it. First off, contact your congressman. Send them a letter, send them an email, reach out to them, tell them we need their support. We need them to co-sponsor this bill. We need their support on this bill. If you need help doing that, go to the Copyright Alliance website. Go all the way to the right-hand side. It's the orange section of the website that says Get Involved. Pull down, and you'll see our campaign, where you can, if you don't know who your congressman is, you can easily just put in your zip code, type it in, and it will tell you who your congressman is, and it will even generate a letter for you that you can amend and rewrite yourself as you like, or you can just send as is. But we do need your support. This is a very, very important piece of legislation. We need your support. We need to get this bill passed. Right now, there's a lot of professional creators out there, a lot of small businesses that rely on copyright, but at the end of the day, they have these rights, but they have no remedies. Give them some remedies. Help us pass this bill, H.R. 3945, the CASE Act.